I don't even know what I'm doing right now.
Oh, camera 1, camera 2. Camera 1.
Live stream. Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today on BQLive. My name is Jerid Hill.
I'm Deem.
And we're going to actually have a topic today about artwork.
Yeah, since he has the degree in art, it makes sense for him to do most of this. So.
Right. Well, so he's going to be my co-pilot.
Sure.
So I'm not sure what he's going to do, but he's
just
going
look pretty
to sit
the
here,
camera.
look pretty for the camera.
That's what I do.
So anyway, what we're going to do once again is at the end of every show we have a Q&A, and so any questions you might have, you want to make sure you send them in. If you're on YouTube, there's a chat window. If you're on our website, down on the bottom, there's a little live chat window. You can click on that. And if you want us to read your name on air, you can also click on the options on our site down there in the chat window, put your name in that location as well, so we'll know who we're talking to.
Sounds good.
So, so other than that, what we're going to do now is we're going to guess the shirt. Okay.
All right.
So
there it is.
let me put my
everybody see it.
awesome Mac down here.
This is a really good print too. I love printing this for people.
So basically, we're going to guess this shirt.
If you can guess my shirt, you might be able to.
So this is a character.
Yep.
And I'm not going to tell you what the character, where the character's from. So you're going to guess the character.
The name of the character.
The name of the character and where the character's from.
I think that's a good one.
That's pretty simple.
This is a little bit better than last week.
Some people, well, yeah, maybe.
I think they might be able to win this time.
And well, again, so nobody won last week. We had a gallon of dark garment pre-treat, and so nobody won that. And so we're going to go ahead and give that out to the winner.
That's a good prize. Everybody can use that.
Well, anybody in DTG needs pre-treat if
Absolutely.
you're using white ink.
Absolutely.
Right? So that's what that's all about.
It's a win-win-win.
That's right. And now we also have a new segment.
All right.
And this new segment is called Fact or Fiction.
All right, so this is kind of our version of Mythbusters for the DTG industry.
Correct.
So what's today's fact or fiction?
Well, fact or fiction. So a lot of times, well, since we're dealing with artwork,
Okay.
a lot of times people, they talk about, hey, if I just change the artwork about 10%, I can use that.
Right. Sure, why not?
We're not really talking about copyright on this one because copyright laws are a little crazy.
That's going to be for a long show.
Right. So, but that's kind of what it is. So 10% rule says, so if I change it 10%, then I can use the artwork.
That's fiction.
Why do you say it's fiction?
Because that's not what the law says.
Oh, okay. So it's just pretty, yeah. All right.
That's
so
fiction.
obviously there's, like with copyright laws, it's,
it gets deep.
It gets deep, right?
Yeah.
You delve into it, and it's called fair use.
Right.
And you just don't know. So
Better
there's
safe than
all
sorry.
different, yeah. There's all different types of requirements for different things like that. So really, you can't even change people's artwork and claim it as your own.
No.
Right? You can't. So
you can. Like there are, you go to Shutterstock, you go to some of these royalty-free websites that allow you to download vectors and modify them and change them. You change it 5-10%. You might be able to go away with that if you have a commercial license to do so.
That's typically royalty free.
Right.
So you
They're not
can
getting paid, but-
well, you're paying them to
Sure.
use the artwork, but they have no royalties on it, and then you
Right.
can edit and do different things like that.
But if you just go to Google and find something
Yes.
you think's cool and superimpose your face over top of somebody else's and say, that's no, that's not
Right.
good enough.
That's
not
bad.
good enough. Yeah.
We don't do those kind of things. And when you do, actually, we don't, but I'm going to today
We kind of do.
for our artwork discussion
Right.
at hand. So, so really what we're going to do is there's a couple different types of artwork,
Yes.
right, that we're going to discuss. We're going to discuss raster versus vector. All right. So what do you, I guess in your opinion, where do you see the differences and what raster is versus vector?
Well, raster is what you do with when you design for something that is not going to be scaled per se.
Okay.
Vectors are completely scalable up and down. So you use vectors for cutting vinyl. You use vectors for making screens. Typically, most screen printers prefer a vector image. For DTG, everything is rastered.
Mhm.
Even if you bring in a vector image, your RIP software is going to rasterize it for us. So, but I mean, you have the degree in this, so I'm just talking from a layman's terms. What is you specifically? The difference between vector and raster.
Well, it is that. I mean, scalability is definitely one of them. Vector is when there's nodes, there's drawings, there's you can actually increase, like you said, scalability.
Infinitely.
Yeah, infinitely, and you're not going to lose quality. Raster is typically more like photography, those kind of images. But if you pull up any image on Google or something
Yeah.
like that, most likely it's a raster.
Yeah, anything
so
that's a JPEG,
is
bitmaps,
definitely-
PNGs.
EPS could be both. EPS could be
EPS, yes.
EPS could be a TIFF,
Bitmap,
right?
JPEG, stuff like that.
Right, JPEG, right. All those are all going to be raster. But when you start out with a file and you increase that file, you start to lose resolution.
Right.
And that's where what we see a lot happening in the printing industry, whether it's direct to garment or printing a brochure. People like to take the artwork and then they grab the artwork, they manipulate it, they increase the size, and it just
lose
doesn't
everything.
look good.
Well, what's
at the
another
end.
thing that I'm sure everybody out here has experienced this is when you deal with a customer and you tell them that you want it to be in an EPS or you want it to be an AI file, and they just drag that JPEG into it and resave the file as an EPS and think that it's vectorized, and the general public has no concept of the differences between them all. So it's something that you, as the shop owner and everything, you need to be very aware of the verbiage and what they do and what areas in your business that you would use each artwork for.
Right.
Now, most of the people's design, we have BQLive and our BelQuette logos both in a raster format and in a vector format, depending on what we're going to use it for.
Right. Yeah, and we do that, quite a bit. So, yeah, the vector obviously is what we start with a lot of our designs when it comes to logo work, that kind of stuff, so that you can scale it to whatever you want. But eventually, if you're making an advertisement on the web,
Right.
then obviously it's going to
special effects on it and stuff too. You want to be able to do. There's a lot more. You have a lot more options and tools with rasters than you do with vectors, as far as really spicing up the image and stuff like that. But you always want to start with a vector, typically with a company logo, especially because if you want to expand that out to make a billboard or like for signage on the side of your vehicle or something like that, you need to have a vector image that can be scaled like that. But then you do make your business cards or something like that. Then you can apply all kinds of cool special effects with some of the Rapture programs out there, like Photoshop and stuff, and really set it apart from just a boring one color design. So.
Right. Okay. So basically, what we're going to do is we're going to go into a demo of like raster. So what I'm going to be using is Photoshop.
Perfect.
Okay. And so with Photoshop, basically, I'm only going to do a few things. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this design and I'm going to bring out a lot of the elements of the midtones, and so we're going to do some contrasting. The reason why we want to do this is when we print on with DTG, the ink, when it goes down and lays down, what it has a tendency to do is spread, right? Now you can actually kind of do a light misting of like garment pre-treat, those kind of things.
Tighten that up.
Help so that it doesn't spread as much. So you'll actually get a better result just by doing that.
Sure.
But this is on the artwork level. So this helps so that if you don't have light garment pre-treat or anything like that, it's still going to look really good.
Yeah.
And so, but what happens again is with inkjet printing, because it is actually printing droplets of ink, you're going to end up spreading the drops, and it's going to merge, and you're going to kind of have an image that it doesn't really stand out very well. So, so what we're going to do is I'm just going to show you how to take these midtones and just do a real quick adjustment. Literally, it's going to take
Couple seconds.
2 minutes at the most.
Yeah.
But I'm going to talk it through. So anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, like in Photoshop, we're just going to zoom in here so I can see a little bit better.
Zoom in on Jack Black.
Yeah, Jack Black there. And so what we want to do is we're going to go, and there's two things we can do. We can do adjustments and levels or curves. Curves are a little bit more involved. You can actually really mess your image up quite a bit by using curves. I'll show you them both because what we're doing is very basic. We're not going into the color of this. We're actually just going to change our lights, our darks, and our midtones.
Right.
All right, so in the levels window, and again, that was just under image, edit, image adjustments, then levels, okay? So what we're gonna do is, with this window, very, very briefly, on the left side here, what we're seeing is where our dark points are, the starting lines, and on the right-hand side are our light points, and the middle is our midtones. So I'll just show you what it does. So if I just take this on the darks and I drag it to the right, it's taking, and what it's doing is it's making my darks darker, but it's also taking my light areas and making them darker too. So it's saying, where's the black starting point? And the same way with the white, we can see we can really wash it out. And then in the middle, we're just gonna, we can see we can take our midtones. All right, so basically that's it. So the basic rule of thumb is very simple. All we're gonna do is take this first slider here, and we're going to drag it just until this line here starts. All right, so we're getting rid of all this other area. So what we're doing is we're making the blacks just a little bit blacker, and you see overall the whole image darkened. Now we're going to take it and do the same thing with the lights. Now this is a little trickier. This is trickier here because I can see right here is about where some of our lights are starting. And if I move over too far, you can see a lot of the areas get washed out of the white area. So I'm going to kind of just, while I do this, I'm also going to look at the image and just make sure I'm not blowing anything out. And then once that's in a good spot, then I'm going to take my midtone, and then we're just going to kind of lighten it or darken it depending on what you want.
Yeah,
and
I mean, some of this
I'll lighten it up.
this is all about what looks good to the eye too. Sometimes,
right.
There's no magic formula here, guys. It's what looks good.
Right.
So
we hit OK. Now I'm going to select all, and then I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to work backwards here. So I'm just going to go, let me step backwards, and I'm going to paste this over top of it. So that way you can see. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll actually create and duplicate my layer so I'm not erasing the original.
Yeah, it's always a
I
smart
forgot to
idea.
do that on this
so
one.
So that's a good tip to always don't ever edit your original.
Right. No. It's good to have a backup copy as a reference point as well.
Absolutely. So you know what you did.
So what we can see here is we see this is the original, and then whenever I turn on the other, you can see how the background really brightens up.
Really come alive.
And so another rule that I kind of try to apply is whether the image has any kind of problems when it comes to darks and lights, is just blur your eyes. You can look at your image, kind of blur your eye a little bit on the original image, and if everything kind of gets washed out, then most likely it's going to print that way too. Right. But once you do this after a while, you kind of can look at an image and see.
You can definitely over-process, and the print won't look good.
Oh yeah. So you can see, really all we did was we just did the levels very quickly. So let's just duplicate this. So I'm going to click on my background layer, drag and drop it down to this little new layer. So all it does is duplicates it. So now we're going to go into adjustments and curves. And the curves has a lot more control you can do with it, but again, there's a lot of areas where you can really mess up. So what we're going to do is same thing, is we're just going to do, it's got the same concept. We're going to take our input level where the darks are, and then we're going to take our lights and kind of do the same thing. Now you could mess with other things like midtones and stuff, but I'm not going to do all that because that starts to get, you can see it starts to get a little more complicated than what the levels would do. But typically, if you go into the curves, if you want to start working with curves in some of your other images, it's going to actually do pretty well. But you just kind of have to understand how all of these work. But anyway, this is really it. I'm going to take it and...
But you do the curves channel by channel, correct?
Well, no, you can.
Okay, so that's how you can get that much deeper into it. Then.
Right. But for something like this, where you're just trying to...
Just going to hit the whole RGB profile.
You just do the entire RGB.
Okay.
Right. And again, you can separate channels and do individual channels, but you really start to blow out your image. So unless you know what you're doing... But again, you're gonna practice it and get better at it. But until you really know, I wouldn't get too far into that. And that's really more for like photography stuff like that.
Yeah, when you're really trying to get
editing
minute details out and stuff.
All right, so let's just show you the difference. So this is the one with the levels. Right here's with the levels, and this is the one with the curves. So I didn't bring out the midtones as much on this, and then this is the original.
Wow.
So the original is definitely washed out. The curve still looks pretty good, and the levels look pretty good.
I like the levels one the best. I think that one's. It's also the easiest to.
Yeah, it's very quick, very simple. But anyway, one last thing that I like to do is, so whether you do curves or levels is up to you. But one last thing I like to do is I like to actually go and put a filter on here, and I'm going to sharpen it and do an unsharp mask. And the reason why I do this is you end up with you end up over exaggerating certain areas where that sharpness really comes in handy. And when you go to print it on a shirt, it actually looks very, very good. The thing is, though, you don't want to sharpen too much. So let's just take this, and I'll just show you what it would look like sharpened way too much.
Yeah, it almost looks like stone.
So you can see, like right here,
yeah,
like in the face area. So really what I like to do is on my percentage, I'll keep my radius down, anywhere from 2 to 4, somewhere in there. And then my percentage, I'll just kind of play with it just a little bit, maybe keep it under 100, and then just hit OK. And so let me just back that up. And it's not real noticeable unless you, whoop. So on screen, it may be a little harder to see, but basically, this
click on the HD.
Click on the HD.
That'll help a lot if you guys aren't watching in HD. Watch in HD, and that'll really help show the difference here.
So this is the this is without the unsharp mask, and then hold on one second, and that's with.
Wow. Okay.
So even though it looks exaggerated here, I didn't go overboard. So when you print that, it'll actually work very well. So that's really the bulk of what I do when it comes to any type of photos that just seem to be like I look and I can tell that the midtones are just not going to work.
I almost bring every image in and do that just to see if I just spin 30 seconds, adjust the levels real quick. If it makes a difference, cool. If it doesn't, fine. Right. And if my eye sees, oh wow, this doesn't work. It blows out one area, one color, so it's just. I think it's good practice. I do it every time.
Well, there's also the rip, right?
Well, of course, some rips do better.
Some rips will do better than others, but I find that I like to try to control that myself a little bit more than what a rip will do.
I think you should do all of your editing before going into a rip. Right. Anything. You shouldn't rely on the rip to really do any photo editing or any color correction or anything like that. I mean, it's going to do a little bit because you're bringing in RGB color profile and it's converted into a CMYK output. So it's got to do a little bit of that, but you really should try to do as much as you possibly can outside of the rip.
Right. I agree. So that one right there is the just kind of playing around with levels and tones and stuff like that. All right. So now I want to take a look at this funky little. It looks like a toy.
It does look like a toy.
It does. It actually looks like a toy, but it's an actual photo.
So you guys in the UK on the other side of the pond, this would be what you guys call a caravan. We call it a trailer.
All right. So the reason why I pulled up this image is what I was looking at was, okay, well, how do you get rid of a background?
Right. This is a great tip, guys, and he's very good at this. He makes it look really easy, and it is easy.
There are a lot of tools that can help you. But not one tool will fit all different images, right? So you have like the magic wands, you have the background eraser tool, You have quick select. I mean, you have all kinds of tools to use, but sometimes, some of these tools, it depends on the image. This has a lot of different textures on there. You can do this with hair. Hair's really good for what I'm going to show you here. But basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a quick mask tool. All right. So what I like to do is I like to kind of zoom in, and then on the left here, down in Photoshop, again, this is Photoshop CC, so it's the latest version. But they all have this, as far back as I can remember, all have this tool. But basically, what I can do is down on the bottom here, there's this quick mask mode. So when I click on this, basically, I'm now in a special mode. So I'm going to take a paintbrush, and then I'm going to make a hard. Well, I guess I should tell you some of the stuff that I'm doing. When I click on my paintbrush and I move into my area, I can see my brush is way too big. I'm going to right click on that, and then I'm going to just change the size of my brush.
You can also use the control bracket if you prefer that, if you're used to the shortcuts.
So I'm going to keep my brush as a hardness, and I'm going to keep my size, kind of a little bit small, nothing too big, because I really want to work in getting into some of these corners.
And you can adjust this as your
Absolutely,
masking.
you can make them bigger as you need to. Right. So what we're going to do is on this brush down here, I have this rounded tip brush, which actually works really good whenever I'm making straight lines. So what you can see here is I'm just going, when I click on this and I paint, and I'm going to move over here and I'm going to unselect this, you can now see it's got the dancing ants, as they call it.
Yep.
And so what it did was it made a selection. So we're just going to hit delete. So you can see it actually made a selection of everything else, and it deleted and changed the background to my background color. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to work backwards here, and I'm going to unlock my layer, because as you can see, if this layer is locked, what it's going to do is it's going to, when you delete anything, it's going to say, well, do you want it as a background, whatever your background color is or whatnot. So now when I delete, it's just going to get rid of it and make it transparent.
Who was it? We watched a video about Photoshop the other day, and somebody was like a 15-step process to unlock the layer.
I don't remember what it was. It was pretty funny. All right, so all I'm going to do is now I'm going to click. Actually, let me get back into my quick mask mode here. I'm going to click. I'm not in my quick mask mode. Hold on. All right, see, now we've got a technical error here. Technical difficulty. All right, well, I have no idea why I'm no longer in my quick mask. There it is. I say this is the first time it's ever done that to me. All right, so anyway, what we're going to do is I'm going to click in the corner where I want to start, and now I'm going to hold in my shift key. And I'm not going to click anywhere until because this is a straight line. So I'm going to click my shift key, or I'm going to move it where I want it, hold my shift key in, and then click again. And I've just made this nice straight line, and I have another nice straight line. Do the same thing. So I started a little bit beyond where I needed to, so I'm going to click where I want to start, and I'm just going to sit there and go around. So, and now this has got a little bit of a curve, so I'm just going to just quickly do that.
And we're not trying to be pixel by pixel perfect here either. We're just trying to get the gist, and then we can go in and fine tune the knockout portion of it.
Right. Yeah. There's a couple things I like to do after this. This can get very time consuming, depending. And like I said, with hair, a lot of times, when I was in art school, a lot of what I minored in illustration. And my instructors, what they would do is they'd say, okay, well, it's time to draw a portrait and draw the hair, but I don't want you to draw every strand of hair, because when you start to draw every strand, it actually takes away from the realness of the image, because you're so focused and you're not creating depth and everything else. But that being said, there's also, when I do hair, like if I'm using this tool to select hair, I don't worry about every strand of hair, because first off, nobody's going to know. It's not a big deal. But what I'll do is I'll make this brush a little bit smaller, and then after it's a little bit smaller, I'll go ahead and just do strokes and so forth wherever strands of hair are. And then so I'm actually creating, I'm creating, still that depth that hair gives, but I don't have to worry about every strand. Did I get it right? And it didn't matter. So let me just zoom out and see where I'm at. Okay, so I'm gonna not spend a whole lot of time on this. You can see what I'm doing, right? So I'm just gonna close up my gap here and pretend like I just did all of this. Because again, it's gonna take me another couple minutes, and it's not worth going over it that much more time. Now again, so what I can do is what I like to do is, still in my quick mask mode, I'll go over to my Magic Wand tool, and then I'll just select it inside of wherever my mask is. And then if I want, I can also zoom in just to kind of get an idea where I'm at. And now I'm going to go to my select and modify and expand. And the reason why I do this is I want that, I'm going to expand it by, let's say, 3 pixels. Doesn't matter. I just want to eat into this other mask, because if I don't do that, what will happen is it'll create this thin line of a mask that you're not going to know it's there until it's too late. All right, and then so the other thing, you can actually do the quick fill, but instead I still like to use my paintbrush, because the fill, if it doesn't fill all the way to where this mask is, the same thing will happen. You'll create this unwanted line. You're not going to know it's there until you try to delete the background. So anyway, all I'm going to do is just do a real quick paint. All right, and then that would be my mask. All right, now what I could do as well is, I wonder if it's just taking, sorry about that, I think it's streaming to my computer is what's slowing it down. Sorry about that. All right, is it, did you lose that, Ollie?
Nope, there we go.
Okay,
we're back.
All right,
sorry about that.
All right, so anyway, and again, if I wanted to mask out other areas, we could delete that and so forth. All right, but anyway, so now that I want to go back into my quick mask, and you can see the dancing ants all the way around the border. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, and then actually I would just hit delete. There we go.
All right, boom.
So now you can see that's pretty much how you would do it.
Yeah.
All right. Now I have one more area. I'm going to, give me 1 second. I'm going to quit Photoshop real quick, because once again, it's
resource heavy.
Yeah, I think my resources are killing me here. Let me pull up Photoshop again. Good thing is this does load pretty quick.
Yeah. Is this
And
another?
then we'll do. Yeah, I think this streaming to my Mac has been killing my processor. Okay, that looks like it's loading up again. Okay, so let's get back into Photoshop, and there's one last area I wanted to show you in rastering. So here's the design on my shirt,
Yep.
right? So the background's already been removed on this. So if I wanted to throw a background in here, I could always, put a different background color on there or whatever. So if I'm working on a black shirt, a lot of times I will just put a background in there just visually. But what we see here, though, is the colors just look kind of dull.
A little muted,
right?
For sure.
So this
Especially
design,
compared to the shirt.
right? Compared to the shirt's got a really nice vibrancy to it. So, and again, you can use all these techniques on one design if you need to. So this one, the transparency, it's got a background already removed. So what I'm going to do now is I just want to boost the color. So some of your later versions of Photoshop give you this ability. And so, but what we're going to do is we're going to go to adjustments, and we're going to do selective color. All right, so there is actually a vibrance. So if I click on, let me click on this layer. I'm going to go back into adjustments, and we're going to go to vibrance. I can kind of boost the vibrancy here. So you can see this is on some of the later versions. So what you can see here is we have, just by changing, now again, you can blow this out too much because your vibrancy and your saturation is going to take all your areas. So you don't want that. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go, once again, we're going to take our vibrancy up a little bit, and until I look into these skin tone areas. Again, this may not work so well with an actual photo because you're probably going to be changing the skin tones way too much. So
you can oversaturate too. Just I don't mean to interrupt you, but it'll look. Sometimes I've done that where it looks great on screen,
right?
And then I go to print it, and it's just totally. I mean, I just blew out the colors so bad.
Well, the saturation, the vibrancy I've seen typically works a lot in these bright, like the reds, the bright reds and stuff like that. And yes, you can definitely oversaturate. So this is one way to do it. Now this is in the newer versions of Photoshop. I don't like doing it that way though. I like to control a little bit more. So I go into image adjustments, and then this is where I was saying we would do the selective color, right? And so now I can see, well, here's my reds, right? So it says, well, what am I looking for? My reds, well, I see it's kind of dull, so I want some more magenta in there, and I want some more yellow in there. So all of a sudden, I can jack it up quite a bit, but now you can see the vibrancy just popped real quick. So if I turn that off,
yeah, wow.
Now you can see though, you can still lose some midtones.
Yeah, you are. You're losing some of the reflections.
Yeah, if you do too much. But again, it really does make a big difference. So what I'll do is yellows. Maybe I can boost that yellow. Okay, that yellow didn't boost as much as I hoped, so maybe take a little magenta out of there. Take a little cyan, maybe back off the black or increase it, whatever you want. So it gives you a little bit of play because there's not a whole lot of yellow in there. It's actually kind of muted down. So I'll first kind of play around with that, and then I may go back in there and do the
your saturation,
right?
Okay.
So I might do my vibrancy. So I click on vibrance instead, and then I might try to make that pop just a little bit more, but not too much, right? So I'm just adding a little bit, right? Because I've already done all that through my other area. So that's pretty much how I would do that. And again, like I said, you can always apply different techniques to it. You can put your, you can go up and put your unsharp mask on there and so forth. Once you're back in there, But again, it's not, to me, something like this, I really wouldn't probably do an unsharp mask. But
it looks like this vector styled image anyway. So
actually, I might. You may not be able to see it on screen very well, but when if I don't click on it, it actually shows me what setting would look like. If I hold in my button, it shows what it is.
Wow.
Or you can do the same thing with the preview button, right?
That's quite a bit.
Yeah. So I might. You never know. You might end up doing that as well. Okay, so I think that's kind of what we're going to finish on the raster side.
Do we have any raster questions that were asked before we move on to vectors?
Yeah, so once again, we're just kind of, well, actually, maybe I can, since I'm already in here, scroll down there for me, would you? I'm going to read this. So Mark Nelson, would you prefer to, or would you say that the pen tool is as faster at deselection for complex images, or would you just say it's according to the image? The deselection tool, go back, maybe I read that wrong, or not deselecting, keep going. Oh, the pen tool. Oh, the pen tool, it can, the pen tool, typically, that's where it's kind of bringing a vector element to Photoshop. I've played with the pen tool, and I do very, and we'll show you vector, and I'll actually show you some vector, how I would vectorize something here
and use the pen tool
in a little bit. And it's pen tool all the time. So, but I find I have a lot more control in Illustrator or CorelDRAW or something like that than I have in Photoshop. It's a little strange. Photoshop seems to handle it a little bit differently, and I'm not sure why. But yes, you can. The nice thing about using the pen tool in Photoshop is when you create those, you can those lines using the pen tool, you can create it as a mask. You can, and it saves them, so you can always go back. So if it's a real complex design, then I wouldn't probably start working a little bit more in that, so you don't accidentally lose your place. Like if I'm working in some other areas, I like the quick mask because I'm used to trying to do real fine areas like the hair, different things like that. So I think it works a lot better in using the quick mask tool. But if it's a complex design where I'm trying to get different elements, or maybe I'm drawing the artwork, maybe I'm drawing the design, I might actually go more into the pen tool so it saves where all my little elements are. So if I'm drawing something, a star, what have you, it's going to save that. And I can create that as a mask. I can create it as a line art, or what have you.
Now, when you're using like a Wacom tablet, do you prefer to use like a pen tool? I mean, obviously you're using a pen.
Well,
to do
a lot of times you do freestyle. So,
Okay,
I mean, you can do it either way. I mean, I do it all different versions, right?
Okay.
So, but if I'm trying to do a free flow, then I use the Wacom tablet, Wacom,
whatever,
whatever.
Yeah. Tomato.
Yeah. So when I do that, then a lot of times try to do free flowing.
Okay.
So, but then again, if I'm drawing something like this, no, I'll use the pen tool. You know,
So you can get straight, good line edge.
Well, if it's vector.
Vector,
In
yeah.
here, then I'll probably use the brush tool. Same thing
Okay.
like we just showed you. Any other?
What about PNGs? Are they supposed to be scalable? No, PNGs are not scalable. Now, here's the thing about raster art, though, guys, is that if you start with an image that is 20 inches by 20 inches, you can bring it down to 10 by 10 inches without losing any resolution. You can't take a 10 inch by 10 inch image and make it 20 by 20. Without losing resolution.
Right.
You can always go down. You can never go up. So it's scalable in the sense of that, but it's not scalable in the sense like Vector is. So
Right.
an EPS or an AI file, it's not going to be like that.
Yeah, vector. You can get a 1 inch vector, and you make it 10,000 inches.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Mile by
it's
mile.
still going to be crisp
Yeah.
imagery. But when it comes to raster, like Eric said, you know, you're going to increase that. You're going to lose resolution. So really, what you have to look at is what is the starting resolution.
Right.
If I have a 1200 DPI file and it's a 10 inch by 10 inch, and I want to make it 20 inch by 20
You
inch,
can get away with that.
you can get away with it because
Yeah, that's
now
a
it's going to
huge-
cut it in half,
Right.
right? Because you're doubling the size.
Right, so you're cutting
So
your dots per
you're
inch.
cutting your imagery is going to be, instead of 1200 dots per square inch, it's going to be 600.
Which is still plenty.
Right, which is plenty for
Right.
what we're doing, because max
Right.
we usually ever print is 200 DPI.
Yeah.
Usually 150 DPI is enough for
Now,
us.
what I
but-
do like about PNGs, one thing that I will make a note of that is that that's my favorite file format to print with, because it's a flattened image. So you can bring in, you can bring like a PSD file in or TIFF files which have layers in them. But the RIP software that we utilize, and all RIP software that I've ever seen, doesn't need layers. It's just makes a bigger file. So all of a sudden, you take a 100 meg file, a PSD file, you export it as a PNG. You cut that way down in file size. So the least amount of data you have to send down the line to the printer, the better you're going to have. You have a lot less issues with data dropping and with locking up the printer or locking up the RIP software, stuff like that. So bring it down, put a transparent background, like you said, 200 DPI, PNG, save it, bring it in and be done with it. And it's a simple, fast, very lightweight file. It's easy to email to people. You can have, you can put it on a flash drive if you need to. It's my preferred
for PNG.
for PNG.
Yeah.
That's my preferred file type to print.
Right,
with.
like JPEG is going to flatten the image. So if you did all this transparency work, and
just
you,
put a white
and you
background
get
on
rid of your background all of a sudden because you save it as a JPEG. But a lot of times JPEG will also create a bunch of unwanted articles in your, an image depending on your resolution.
Yeah.
So if you have a lower resolution, you're going to have all these unwanted articles you may not even see until you're trying to print it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So PNG doesn't do that. So
Right.
PNG actually it's kept clean.
Yeah, it's
Any other questions? I lose a lot of coloring, curing my shirts. Would adjusting the color compensate for color loss? It can a little bit.
How are you curing the shirts? What I want to know.
Yeah, we have a video
on how to keep your
on
shirts
how
more
to
vibrant.
keep your shirts more vibrant when you're curing.
Yeah.
So
There's a
just
couple
go
tips
to our if you're on BQ.live, just click up on the upper very top on the left. You should see a little YouTube icon. Click on that. It'll take you to our YouTube page.
It's
and
a
then just
BQ
look
Quick
at
Tip.
BQ. Yeah, it's the BQ Quick Tips playlist.
Right.
You go in there and it'll actually show you how to keep those colors a little bit more vibrant. You can do a little bit of that in the artwork.
It's
but
very hard to do that
really-
because you don't know.
you don't know.
You're not going to know what's going to happen. So
Right.
it's best to try to use the process we said with using different types of paper and different curing techniques to try to resolve some of that and keep some of that vibrancy and pop in your image before going to the artwork itself.
Right.
If it looks beautiful coming off the printer and then it starts looking dull after you cure it, that's a process problem. That's not an artwork problem. So we can you're going to lose a little bit no matter what. I mean, it's just like the very first wash on a white T-shirt. You can pre-treat it. It doesn't matter. The very first wash, you're going to lose somewhere around 10% or more in your vibrancy just because all the fibers are going to start standing up and you're going to lose some of this the resolution because of the fiber. So don't worry about that. That's normal. Just like losing a little bit through the heat press, you're gonna see a little bit of that. But watch the quick tip, and that should help. And if it doesn't, let us know, and we'll see if we can help you resolve that issue.
Right. Okay, so just want to check out if we have any winners for the T-shirt contest.
Does not appear so.
Not yet. Guys. Okay, so one more time. Let me kind of move this down a little bit for you. One more time. Yeah. Name this character and where this character is from. And if you do that, you'll win a gallon of Dark Garment pre-treat.
That's right.
And so we kind of went off stray a little bit and was taking some questions now.
That's typical of
but
us.
That's because we are in the raster section.
Right.
So what I want to do is move to the vector.
Vector.
All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to vectorize a logo. It's actually a good clean logo to begin with, but I'm going to vectorize this just to kind of show you, how vectorizing works.
Right. So if you had a customer that came in and brought you this type of a design or something, and you needed to be able to cut it in vinyl. Let's say you're not printing this, you're going to cut it, or you're going to do something else with it where it has to be scaled, and they don't give you a good image. They give you a 100 by 100 pixel image, and it's tiny. This is a good way to vectorize in a very quick way. And then you have a very, very clean, good image to begin with, and you save it and be able to use it for future jobs for that customer. So
right, yeah, and as you can see on screen, zoomed. I mean, I'm zoomed in quite a bit, but something like this, it's a raster image. This is one where I can't make this any bigger. Otherwise, this is going to do this kind of thing.
Yeah, it would cut that jagged if you were.
Well, you wouldn't even be able to cut it because it's not. Like you said already, it's raster. It's not a vector file, so you can't cut a raster file. You have to have a vector file.
To begin with,
right.
Now, you could use the built-in tool, the vectorizing tool of Illustrator, but
let's just do that.
It's really
quick.
not,
it's a very quick tool. I'm not a big fan of it.
I'm not either.
It's called Image Trace, and then so you open up your Image Trace window, and then you just say, okay, well, what do I want? I want color, and I want up to 30 colors, and I hit Preview. And so it's going to do it, but you can see, how it.
Yeah, look how it changed the bottom of the.
Yeah, I mean,
the
our color, our letters are all weird and so forth.
Straight.
And then it'll throw a bunch of extra points in that you don't want, and that kind of stuff. So I kind of stay away from that tool.
It has its point. It has it like I've used it many times when I'm trying to vectorize like a photo or something. I want to use kind of more of an abstract feel to it. I don't want that fine art. I look for that kind of an odd thing that I'm going to use it for, and it works great for that.
Right.
But if I'm trying to get really fine line details and it has to be perfect, you have to trace it. That's the best way to do it.
I agree. And so what we have here is what I like to do, and I'll just do this pretty quick. I mean, this is something that I've had quite a bit of experience behind it, so you're not going to be able to just jump into this quick if you've not done it. But as you get more practice with it, you're going to find that it's actually not as complicated. So what I like to do is I have these rulers I turn my rulers on in Illustrator, and I just click and drag it on the guide down to where my circle up here is started. All right, it's just a guide, and then I'll do the same thing on the left hand side, and then I have my starting point for my circle. So I'm just going to kind of get in view here, and I'm going to go to my circle tool over here, and I'm going to click on the on this intersection where I made these guides, and I'm click and hold it and drag it. Now you can see I can drag this, and it's not going to be a perfect circle, but if I hold my Shift key in, now it will be. All right. So I just made this outline circle, and then we're just going to make a line so I know what I'm doing.
Stroke.
Here. So I stroked, right, there was no stroke on here, so now there is. So now I'm just going to take my my arrow tool, my select tool, I'm going to select it, and I'm going to copy, and then I'm going to paste in place. Now I use hotkeys, so if you go, I think it's under edit, you go copy, then you go edit, paste in place. And what that does is it creates an exact duplicate right where it needs to be.
Now, are you working on the same layer, or did you create a new layer?
This is all the same layer.
Okay.
You can create different layers in Illustrator, but it depends on what you're doing. So something like this, I would just do one layer.
Okay.
All right, so now I want to drag this, and I want to make another circle in the same area. But what I'm trying to do is I'm going to hold in my shift key so that that circle stays an actual circle. And I'm going to hold in my alt key or my option key, depending on if you're on a Mac or a PC. And then I'm going to drag that as well to right where that circle is. Now you can see I have two circles, inside and outside. I'm going to select them both, right click, and say make compound path. Now what that did was it now created this circle all as one.
Like a donut.
All right. Now the other thing I would do is, and again, this is stuff you're going to learn as you go, and every illustration is going to be different. But I'm going to take my guide again, and this time I'm going to put it right in the center of where the circle is, and then on the center of the other circle, and it snaps right to the center. All right. And now all I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in, and I want to create this arc right here. So I'm going to take my pen tool. So somebody mentioned pen tool earlier. And I'm just going to start right here. I'm going to click one time, and you can see that this pen tool moves around after you click and let go of the button. And what I'm looking for is the top of this arc, right? Because I want a nice smooth arc. And the less amount of clicks you have, the smaller the file size will be, and the smoother the curves will be. All right, so I'm just going to take this top area right here, click on this, hold in my click button, and I'm going to hold in my shift key and drag it to the right. Now what I've done is I've created these nodes. This node has these handles on here. Now if I hold in, as I get to the point where my left curve is good, and maybe I want to extend that right node out a little bit more to get more of a curve on the right, I keep my shift button in, I'm going to hold in my option or my alt key, and now you can see this drag all the way out. Now note that wherever this this handle is going to go, if I go all the way out here, this curve's going to go all the way down, and it's going to be like way beyond where I need to be. So I just want a little bit of curve. I can always change this as I go. All right, and then I'm going to click on, kind of see where this point ends down here somewhere. All right. And that's pretty much what I'm going to do there. And I'm going to hold, instead of this first select key, I'm going to do the select button. I'm choose the second arrow so I can take this handle and just kind of move it by itself. Now I have a curve, but this one here needs to come down a little bit. And that's going to be pretty much it. All right, now I want to put a stroke on this one as well, just so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to take my eyedropper tool, and I'm just going to click with this one already selected. I'm going to click on this other stroke, and now I have the same color, so I know what I'm doing. All right. Now this is actually going to go very quickly, even though it seems like it's taken a long time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select this pathway here with my normal select button, and I'm going to choose my rotate button, which is over here. All right, it's a rotate tool. And when I do that, I have this, I don't know if you can see it on screen, but this little tiny blue crosshair.
Yeah.
Right?
That's the center point for your rotation, correct?
Right, that's the center point for your rotation. So I'm going to click on that and hold it in, and I'm going to drag it all the way down to my center line that I created. All right? And now, with that, I'm just going to take somewhere outside of here, and I'm going to click it, and you can see, now there's 8 rings on here, so I know it's going to do a 45-degree rotation. So if I don't hold in my shift key, I can control it, to wherever I want, but I want an exact 45. Perfect, yeah. So I'm going to hold in the shift key, and you can see that it's
snap it to that.
Right. And at the same time, I'm going to have to hold in my alt or my option key, and that duplicates that. All right. So I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. All right. So now that I've got those 2 exact curves, I'm going to take these, select them both. And then I can right click on it, hit join, and it joins one side of the path. I'm going to choose my pen tool, click on one of the anchor points, just move it out of the way. All right, so now I have this point, this one. Now I'm going to select, now what I want to do, I have this in completion. Let me go to a wire so you can see this is my point here. I'm going to click on that, and now I'm going to click on my outer and inner circle one time. And now I've selected only my drawing, and I'm going to go back to my Pathfinder, which is under, I think it's under Window Pathfinder. I already have it open. And this third button right here is an intersect tool. Wherever these lines intersect, that's what's going to remain. All right? So now we have this one little area, and we're going to do the same thing we just did. We're just going to take our rotation tool. We're going to find the center of that little blue center guide and put it right in the middle again. We're going to rotate it, and we're holding in the shift key so it rotates exactly 45. And then we're going to hit Alt or the Option key. And why is it 45 degrees? Do you know?
Because of how many segments there are in a 360-degree circle?
Exactly. 360 degrees, divide that by 8, and you're going to get 45 degrees. And so, and it rotates on 45 anyway.
It kind of reminds me of like a camera shutter kind of icon.
Uh-huh. So there we go. Now we can see, now we can actually just go into my wireframe, and you can see I've already vectorized it. Now the cool thing is this eyedropper tool. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on one of these, right? So this one where this darker blue is. I'm going to choose my eyedropper tool, and I'm just going to click that color. So what that did was it said, well, that color didn't have an outline, so I'm going to get rid of the outline. I'm going to match the color. So now I'm going to do the same thing with each of these, right? So I'm just going to sit there and go select each of these like this.
Now you're clicking on the path.
Yeah, I'm clicking on the path, and then I click the color with the eyedrop tool. And to get my arrow tool from the eyedropper tool, I would just hold in my command button.
Okay.
All right, so when I do that, it
Switch
changes it just to my arrow, so I don't have to keep going back here and hitting this button.
That's a nice little quick tip.
All right, so there's that. And I'll just show you, I'm not going to do all the lettering, but if you do not know what this font is, or you do not have this font, or this font costs $10,000 because people think they're going to get rich selling fonts. I've seen some pretty crazy pricing on fonts. You can actually draw these. So what I'd like to do is, I can see, I would take a, actually, you know what, let me go ahead and get rid of all these guides real quick. So I'm going to click and drag over the guides and just hit the delete key. So I'm going to make some new guides. And what I would do is the top of this A and the bottom of this A. This becomes my positions of where the lines start and stop. Now you can see this L goes a little bit above. That's okay. You see this T, it crosses right where the M is. So we're just going to put one right there. And those are basically going to be my starting guides. So we're going to go back into, let's just go into my pen tool. Now with the A, there's all kinds of ways you can do it, but quite honestly, the simplest is just click and then let go of the button, click, just go to each point, just go right around. And again, if you're off a little bit, you can always make the adjustment if you want to. It's not critical. You know, again, this is stuff that nobody's going to really ever notice anyway. All right. So we're going to put a little stroke on there, get rid of my fill so I can see what I'm doing. Let's just change the color it. Okay. So again, we're going to take a rectangle tool, and I'm just going to draw a real quick line. So there's my A. Here comes my L, obviously, very simple. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this L, hold my shift key, and once again, hold my Alt or my Option key and drag it to where I want it. It duplicates it. So a lot of these letters are going to have the same kind of spacing on their upward and downward stroke. Now if I take my second arrow tool, which is actually going to my selection tool, I can select individual points. So I'm going to hold in my shift key. I hold in my shift key a lot so that you go straight up and down, left and right, or 45 degrees. And then we're just going to go like this. And then I'm going to select these 2 points, and I'm going to go just above the arc. And then I'm going to just click somewhere in the center here, and then I'm going to click on that point. And again, hold the shift key, drag down my point while I'm still clicking on the mouse. And I'm looking at my bottom point, same thing, straight up, over, and close my point. All right. And again, we're going to take this like so, which if you wanted to be sure, you could also take the A, because it should be the same height. You see how that works? So a lot of times in typography, that's the way it works. All right, we're going to do the same thing on the M. Now notice the M at the top here, it's over a little bit. So I'm just going to drag this down to where that guide is. And now I'm in my pen tool, I'm now going to go add anchor point tool. And then what I'm going to do is just simply click where that point should be moved over, and one down below it, just so that I have a starting and stopping point. And I'm going to select those 2 top points and just drag it over a little bit. And I'm almost done. I think we're going to cut it here very quickly. If you guys have any questions or anything during this, let us know. And we'll definitely answer any kind of vector. As I said, this is a little more involved, so we want to make sure that
just takes practice, guys.
Yeah, it is.
You want to do some practice. Don't try these types of techniques on your customer, or do something on your own. Find something on Google and just play with it. Play with the tools on something that you don't have to worry about hurting. You know.
Now I would also on these M's, I could take this same width and use it here. But again, it's pretty defined here, so I think it's safe to just redraw them real quick. And to get this nice curve, I'm going to make sure I'm on this line, click and drag, and then do that, and put my stroke on there.
Okay. Now you
All
have
right.
Pathfinder though, so people can see what.
Yeah, so if I go into Pathfinder, you can see that we have this here. Now what I'm going to do is just show you real quick how I close that all up. I'm going to ignore the other letters. Get rid of these guides. So we're going to go and select these A, all of that. And like Eric said, go to the Pathfinder. This time I'm going to click on Unite. So
boom,
everything, Unite, and Unite.
and now we have recreated the font.
Right.
And it's cuttable, it's scalable. So right now we're at 119 degrees. This is what 119%. I'm sorry, and this is about an 8-inch wide. So you could zoom this in and expand this to 1,000 by 1,000 by 1,000 if you want. It'll never ever degrade the quality.
Yeah. So you see this. So just like Eric said, I'm making this much larger than the page itself.
Yeah. Now it's
All right. Okay, so that's it. Now there are some other tools. I'm not going to go into any more on Illustrator at the moment, but I am going to show you one other tool that's coming on the scene.
This is super cool.
This is pretty slick, and I'm not going to get into a lot of detail with it at the moment, just simply because there's a couple things that are changing.
Beta version, isn't it?
There's a couple things changing on this software. But here's another real quick vectorizing tool, and what I'm going to do is I opened up the image. It's the exact same image as I had before, and these tools, so these are getting easier and easier all the time. So now I'm going to, up here we've got this little bar that shows us the order of things. So we're going to say separate colors, and I'm going to reset this, and I'm going to show you how I would separate these colors. Basically, you got this, once you click on this, you have this eyedropper tool. Just click once on every color that you see. Oh, actually, you know what? Hold on 1 second. This is not the right file. This must have already done it. Let me reopen the file. We'll do reopen. Okay, here we go. So anyway, we're in the separate colors window. I'm just going to click on every color, and it's going to add them all to my window here. And there. All right. And then all I'm going to do is hit process. So it's created, let me zoom in, and you're going to kind of see it's still jagged because it's still, it's not vectors yet, but it's created these colors, separations. And now I'm going to say create vectors, and it's actually created vectors already for me. It's done. But what's kind of cool is if you know, sometimes you get those hard to do fonts. Let me zoom out here. Zoom, view entire page. All right, so it's vectorized these fonts. Now this could be, let's just say it's a really bad vectorized font. And so I did it very clean, but just say it was bad. I can actually select all of that and click on identify font and replace. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say next and saying, okay, well, what are these letters? That's a capital A, lowercase l, lowercase t, m, e, T, R, I, lowercase. So it is case sensitive.
Yep.
So we're going to say next, And now what it's doing is searching any fonts I have or any fonts that it may have and thinks it might be. And again, it depends on what your system has in it. Now these are font I, they call them font I. I'm going to do installed fonts, and I kind of know what this font is. So really what you would do is, if you have it installed, it will try to bring it to the top.
It does a really good job too.
Yeah, it does. And, but I kind of have an idea what this font is. So let me just say, let me look here. And if you scroll through them, you can actually see how it just replaces the font.
It's kind of like what the font, only through a vector program. Now this is more to vectorize. This isn't necessarily to create vectors from scratch and correct like you would in Illustrator.
Right. You can do that, but this tool, because there are adjust shapes, replace objects, edit objects, and draw. So you can do that. Mm-hmm. This is really made, but you still have the same principles as Illustrator and everything else, right? With the click, 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 and drag and everything like that. But what this does is this gives you the ability to be able to vectorize it very quickly, very easily. So you can see this is close. My A is off a little bit. My I is off a little bit, but that's okay. I'm just going to say replace. All right.
And there it is.
And then I'm going to say adjust shapes.
So to consider the letters now to be a shape?
Yes.
So it's created outlines. It's no longer a font now.
Right, it's no longer a font. Actually, you know what? I probably should have done that in my other window, but you can still adjust it. You can take this A. So I did it earlier, just kind of playing with the tool, but you can actually just click, click, and drag it up.
Okay.
And it'll automatically change it. But there's a lot more involved in this. The software, you can do a lot more with it. But I'm going to hit save, and now you can see it's created this pinwheel. It's got all the vectors built in. I can say, well, how do I want to send it? Illustrator, Corel Draw, export it as an EPS file, AutoCAD file, bitmap file.
Wow, AutoCAD. Wow, cool.
Of course, bitmap's raster, so you just vectorized it, and now you're going to save it as a raster file.
But if you have a small image and you need to make it bigger, and then you re-raster it at the scale you need it to be at, that works.
Right.
So.
Yep.
All
okay,
right.
So I guess we have a
winner.
Contest winner.
All right.
Awesome.
Good.
And that is Mark Nelson, and there's multiple ways to pronounce the name of this character. My son tells me it's Torbjorn. Other people say it's Torborn. Other people say it's Jack.
I think we should ask Bjorn, the artist,
maybe.
how it's pronounced. She probably know.
Yeah. And it's the Overwatch character.
Yeah, is this a game, correct?
Yeah,
is this a PC
video
game or Xbox game or?
It's all the above.
Oh, it is. Okay, so it encompasses
but everybody
all.
wants the PC game version because it's so much better, supposedly.
The last PC game.
At least that's what my kids tell me. It's $40. I told him to get a job. If he's watching, sorry.
I played Oregon Trail. Was the last thing I played on the computer, I think.
Oh wow, yeah, that's wow.
Oh, my Commodore
That's
64.
old school. Yeah, that's old school. All right, so as always, we have a coupon code for you. It's actually Overwatch, and so basically all you have to do is go to our web store at BelQuette.com.
We're gonna have. Are we gonna do a store?
Maybe we might sell.
Try to sell some
mugs or something.
Yeah.
But you go into our web store and you add anything into the shopping cart, upper right hand corner, say View Cart, and in there is where you can apply your coupon code.
Awesome.
And we're going to give you 10% off of anything in the web store for 1 week.
Everything.
But you have to use the coupon Overwatch.
Right.
So
last week's coupon won't work. So
no, last week's coupon ended this morning. You can't use it.
Perfect.
So anyway, that's the show for today.
Yep.
And we appreciate you guys staying with us, for a little bit longer than because of the demos. But as a reminder, we want you to, go out, visit our site BQ.live. There's things on there that we're still adding. We also have email at info@bq.live if you have any other things you want to send over to us, any kind of questions.
Suggestions for new shows.
Suggestions for new shows.
Guys, we got to do 52 of these a year. So anything you guys need to know, let us know. We'll try to put it on in a video for you.
Yep.
So.
And just subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to our newsletter. Again, we're trying to get the information out for people.
All that good stuff.
And if you guys feel that this really is good information and it's something that's helpful, share it with other people.
Yeah. We're doing really good. Our first week show, it's had over 1,000 views. So thank you everybody who's watched that first week show. And last week was phenomenal too. We've hit almost 300 views already in 7 days. So we're really happy. So as long as you guys are happy, we're happy. So any positive feedback or negative, we're willing to hear.
And you can send cash only. Send cash only to us, right?
Yes.
Cash only. As much as you want.
Care of Eric Deem.
Or as little as you want.
Yeah.
And today we're leaving on a jet
hours.
plane. We do know when we'll be back again.
Yeah, we'll be back
where are we going?
Long Beach.
Long Beach,
NBM
California.
show, booth 1137. So come by. We're going to have the Genesis there. We'll have our Mod 1. We'll have the Edge Preacher machine. Come out, have a good time. Check it out. Kick the tires, whatever. Bring a checkbook with you. And we'll help you load a printer up in your car if you want.
Cash is better.
Well, we'll take cash. We might be able to work a better deal that way. You never know. Just want the bosses.
All right. So till next week. Thanks again for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
And we'll be back.
Appreciate it.
All right. See you now.